Hey there. If you feel like money literally slips through your fingers, like it comes in and goes right back out, then I have something just for you. On Sunday, May 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm teaching a free live Stop Overspending Masterclass. We're going to break down why this keeps happening and what to do differently so that you can start making progress and keep more of the money that you make. You can save your seat by going to jermainefoley.com/class. That's Jermaine with a G, Foley.com/class. Hope to see you there. You are listening to the Becoming the Wealthy You podcast with Jermaine Foley. If you're a woman who makes good money in your career or business, but you're not building wealth like you want to, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, you'll learn how to stop overspending, break free from the cycle of debt, save lots of cash, and become the wealthy woman you were born to be. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about something that may be a little controversial. At first, when you really hear me say it at first, you might be like, Jermaine, I don't know what you're talking about, but here it is. I actually think wealth building is very, very simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. And I think a lot of people have made wealth building feel way more complicated than it needs to be. All of the spreadsheets, the financial jargon, the complicated strategies, constantly wondering if you're doing it right, should you do this first or that second? And when you really think about it, when you really zoom out, wealth building comes down to mastering what I call the 5 core areas of money. And I'm going to name them off for you. The first one is income. The second one is spending. The third one is debt. The fourth one is savings, and then the fifth one is investing. That's it. Those are the 5 levers. Now, when I say simple, I'm not necessarily saying that it is emotionally easy to do any of these things, right? It's not easy to necessarily just decide, hey, I'm going to go and make more money. Although it's simple, it's so simple to do, but because of our conditioning, our habits, the way we've been raised, the way we think, the mindsets we have, the limiting beliefs that we have, it makes it so much harder for someone to just decide, okay, I'm about to double my income, or you know what, I'm done overspending, or I'm done with debt. I'm paying these credit cards off and I'm not going back into debt again. It's so much simpler than we make it, but I'm not saying that it's easy to do, again, because of the habits, conditionings, patterns, and beliefs that we have around money, the conditioning, how we were raised, what society tells us. We all have been programmed to think that wealth building is harder than it needs to be. And I won't say all of us have been programmed that way, because some people have been raised in families where it's just what they do and it's super easy. But for many of us, those of you who are listening to this podcast may not have been raised in that environment. And because of that, things seem harder than they really need to be. But when you really think of the actual formula itself, it is simple. Here's something I really need to say before we get into the 5 areas. Your thoughts about money matter. Your thoughts create the results in your life, okay? And I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I was trained through the life coach school, and we were taught something called the model. And the model is a framework to really look at what's going on in your life, what's going on in your mindset. And so what it talks about is that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions drive your results, right? And so when you think something, that makes you feel an emotion in your body, and those emotions drive you to do things or not do things. And then from there, you create the results in your life. So if you think that money is hard, I'll never figure it out, I'm just bad with money, those thoughts create feelings in your body, maybe something like discouragement or overwhelm or hopelessness. And when you feel discouraged, what do? You just stop even trying. You avoid your money, you overspend, you'll procrastinate, you'll just say, forget it. And then in order to feel better, you'll emotionally spend. And those actions create the exact results you didn't want, right? More financial stress, less wealth, and proof that you're bad with money or that money is hard. But what if you flipped it, right? Because the opposite is also true. If you think, I can figure this out, this is learnable. Wealth building can be simple. Maybe wealth building is simpler than I thought. I can master these 5 core areas of money over time. Now, those thoughts create a completely different energy, hope, motivation, empowerment, curiosity, creativity. And from that place, you take very, very different actions. So instead of avoiding, overspending, and procrastinating, those feelings drive you to learn, to plan, to adjust, to stay consistent, and to keep going even when you mess up, even when you're not perfect. And over time, guess what? You will create wealth. Why? Because you'll learn it and you'll figure it out. So Henry Ford said that if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right. So the lesson here is that your dominant thought patterns will literally create your life. So if you think you'll never figure this out, you're right. Or if you think that this is learnable, you're also right. So you get to decide, you get to choose. And this is not because your thoughts are magical, but it's because of the energy that they produce. Remember, I said your thoughts create your feelings, and feelings are energy. You feel them in your body. It's like vibrations in your body. And those feelings, that energy that your thoughts produce, will determine what you do or don't do with your money. And those actions will create whether you have wealth, whether you're in debt, whether you have savings, whether you overspend, it'll create your life, your reality, or your results. Okay, so now that I've explained that foundational piece, let's dive deeper into each of the 5 core areas of money. Remember, there are only 5 core areas. That's income, spending, debt, savings, and investing. And I believe most financial problems you have can usually be traced back to one or more of these areas. And I want to tell you this, you, my friend, have a lot of control over these areas, even your income. So the first area is income. Some people truly do need to increase their income. Maybe you're underpaid. Maybe your business isn't bringing in enough revenue. Maybe your expenses are higher and you need more money to cover that. Maybe you need an additional stream of income. And if that's the case, then income becomes the lever you first pull. Now, let's be clear. Income is always an available lever to pull no matter how much you make, right? But if you're already doing well financially, this lever, making more money, will not fix a poor money management problem. For some of us, we need more money just to make ends meet. And if that's you, then income is definitely the lever you want to pull first. But for most of you, the women that I work with, making money really isn't the problem, right? But of course, we're always open to making more money, right? I love the idea that I can be so grateful and appreciative of all the money in my life and still desire more. But making more will not fix a poor money management problem. It will just exacerbate that problem. So I love to think of it like this. Making more money becomes really, really fun when you have the next 4 areas I'm going to cover in check. Once you have your spending in check, your debt in check, your savings in check, and your investing in check, then making more money is truly overflow, is truly abundance. That's when it gets really, really fun. But when you're constantly trying to make more money, and it doesn't feel like it because it's just going right back out the door due to overspending, debt, and those types of things, then it really isn't all that fun to make more. Okay, so now let's go to the second core area of money, which is spending. Okay, and this is the area that I see derail people the most. Spending becomes a bottleneck because if money's coming in and immediately going right back out, then wealth never has a chance to accumulate. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. Yes, the money's coming in, the water's coming in, but it's just flowing right back out the drain. You never fill up the tub. And this is why I talk about overspending so much, because overspending doesn't just cost you money in the moment. It literally costs you your future wealth. I think it's the biggest wealth stealer out there. And if this is an issue for you, then I want you to join me for my Stop Overspending Masterclass that is happening on Sunday, May 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, if you're listening to this before then, all you have to do is go to jermainefoley.com/class. That's Jermaine with a G, Foley.com/class to save your spot, or you can go to the show notes. The link is there. If you're listening to this after the fact, just stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be more classes for you to join later. But listen, if overspending is an issue for you, then it's something that you must deal with if you really, truly desire to be financially secure, to have more than enough, to be work optional one day, and to have more money than you need so that you can leave generational wealth and not just make all the money and spend all the money in your lifetime. The next area that I see a lot of my clients struggling with is debt. But here's the thing about debt. Once your income and spending are in check, debt finally has room to decrease. Not just temporarily, but permanently. Because a lot of people, I'm sure you can relate, pay off your debt only to run it back up again. You pay it off, run it back up again. It's like this endless cycle. And a lot of times we go deeper and deeper into debt because we're doing quick fixes, right? We're indulging in quick fixes where we're taking out 0% interest transfers or consolidation loans or 401k loans. And we never fix the habits that caused us to get into the debt in the first place. And we quote unquote get rid of it when really that's not what we're doing. We're just moving it around. And so because we never address those underlying habits, you end up in double the debt because you run the credit cards back up again that you transferred to another credit card. Or if you took out a 401k loan to pay off your credit cards, now that credit card is free and clear, you can add more expenses to it. And because you never address the patterns, the thoughts, the behaviors, again, that caused the debt in the first place, you end up charging on that card. And so you can end up in double, sometimes triple the debt. And so one of the things I am so adamant about is not just paying off debt, because anybody can pay off debt, but it's staying out. It's breaking that cycle. And the way you're going to do that is by getting rid of the bottleneck, the overspending, and also pulling the next lever that I'm going to talk about, which is savings. Because when you have savings, then when stuff happens, when emergencies happen, or I'll talk about this in a minute, a flat tire happens, guess what? You don't need to rely on your credit cards. You can use savings. And so that's another thing that will help. So these 5 core areas of money are very much so connected to each other. Okay, so as I said, the next area, the 4th area, is savings, right? And when your savings start to grow, this is where the power really starts to come in, right? You'll learn not to just save money, but to have money. So you're not constantly draining it, rebuilding it, and draining it again. You really get to a place when you're not overspending, where you're not constantly in debt, where you can allow money to accumulate in your life. So you go from just making it and spending it to making it and learning how to keep more of the money you make in your life. Again, you'll use the money, right? Because I mentioned the flat tire situation. If you have a flat tire and you have money set aside for it, that's what it's for. But because your other habits are in check, when you're not overspending, your income is good, and you're not constantly paying off credit card debt, you can easily rebuild your savings when you use it, right? And so the goal here is not to never spend your savings, is to use it intentionally so that the money has space to grow back. And again, you can see how all of these are connected. And then the 5th area is investing. Now, when you have your income that's constantly growing and you have your spending in check, you're no longer stuck in the cycle of credit card debt, you have significant money in the bank through savings, then you really free yourself up to be able to start investing at a high level. This is where your money starts making you money. Instead of you constantly going to work for the money, your money starts making you money. And this is where compounding interest gets to do its magic. Albert Einstein said that compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it gains it, and those who don't pay it. Okay. So this is where you kind of get into that. That's where wealth building really comes in. And it's almost like once you get it started, it's like a snowball. It's a small ball, but as you keep going, It's like a snowball going down a hill. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, it's massive. And you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I only put in this amount, but look what's in my account now. And that's because you were able to master the 5 core areas of money. You stopped spending everything you made. You stopped being stuck in the cycle of credit card debt. You had savings to cushion you from life. So when life happens, you don't have to rely on debt. You can just pay it with savings. Now, that doesn't mean you don't put it on a credit card and then pay it off with your savings. You can totally do that. But what I mean is you're not constantly going deeper and deeper into debt and carrying it from month to month. So once you get all of these areas under control, you just start feeling so confident and secure in what you're building and what your life is going to be like in the future. So when you step back and look at all of this, wealth building really is actually very simple. You just master the 5 core areas of money and identify which lever you need to pay the most attention to right now. For some of you, it's going to be income, but for many of you listening, it's spending. Because you can make great money, but if spending is unmanaged, guess what? Wealth will not accumulate. The money will just continue to flow right back out the door. So I really want you to hear me on this. You do not need to master all 5 areas of money overnight. You just need to start becoming more intentional, one area at a time, one decision at a time. Okay? But here's the thing. Even though I said the wealth building is very simple, right? I did also admit that it isn't necessarily easy because I know firsthand from the clients that I work with and even from my own life, actually doing these things consistently is where people struggle. Because in order to master the 5 core areas of money, you first have to learn how to manage your mind. And that is what we're going to talk about next week. Why knowing what to do with money is one thing, it's not the same as actually doing it. And there are psychological reasons why you know what to do, but you just can't get yourself to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. And so be sure that you join me. If you have some friends that you think could really benefit from next week's episode, share the podcast with them. I would love, love, love to have them as listeners. And I will see you all next week. Bye-bye. Hey, if money is the one area of life you just can't seem to figure out, even though you make good money, you're not alone. That's why you're invited to book a complimentary one-to-one money consultation with me so that we can figure out how to solve your biggest money challenges. To sign up, simply go to jermainefoley.com/consult or check out the show notes. Hope to meet you soon.